The event here present at is the opening of the conference dedicated to treatment of hematological diseases of children and grown-ups, to problems of bone marrow transplants. This is one of the biggest conferences that come in our city, with many foreign participants.
Мы проводим сейчас симпозиум, который называется Saint-Petersburg Joint Meeting, то есть объединенный симпозиум. И этот симпозиум является частью очень известных симпозиумов в мире, которые называются...
Our conference is a part of the bigger one that first was held about 20 years ago in Hamburg, and since that it is held every 2 years.
Они стали очень популярны во всем мире и проводятся раз в 2 года. Уже в течение 10 лет
In the past 10 years at least,
особенно лейкоз,
children's leukemia
заболеваниям, которые
has responded to treatment,
за рубежом,
in particular abroad.
современных схем.
They utilize the most up-to-date equipment and manage to cure some 50% of children and 20% of adults.
страдающих острыми лейкозами. До настоящего времени
For the time being,
мы не могли
we haven't reached those results.
по многим причинам. Однако 2 года назад,
Anyway,
в 90 году,
2 years ago, in 1990, the local authorities adopted a decision to set up the Center of Transplantation of Bone Marrow, which consists of several divisions. One of them is the Center of Transplantation of Bone Marrow, and there are some others. I believe it's one of the most important moments in the history of medicine. Currently, we have got a well-equipped hospital, and we have managed to train efficient doctors and nurses. Now we utilize the modern technology which is being used in other countries of the world. And I assume that in the nearest future our results won't differ drastically from the results obtained abroad.
During last 2 years, we've made about 50 bone marrow transplants. We've introduced the new program BFM that is so popular in Germany, United States, and many other countries. We should cure everyone without taking in consideration whether his disease is unique or not. By the way, hematological diseases is the main reason of children death rate. Oncological diseases of grown-ups take the second place after heart diseases, but most of cases end lethally.
В летальности, в смертельных исходах очень высокий. И, конечно, мы должны развивать все у себя. Невозможно
Surely, we must develop methods of treatment, because it's not very sensible to treat people abroad. We should treat them here. When we just organized the center, we had a lot of technical difficulties, shortage of medicine, of equipment. I appreciate very much all that help that was given by our German colleagues, especially by Professor Axel Zander, Director of Bone Marrow Transplant Center from our twin city Hamburg, and Professor Kurt Wenzel, Director of Children's Hematologic Center.
руководитель отделения детской гематологии Гамбургского университета. Я думаю, что они сыграли решающую роль в создании.
They played an important role in organizing of our center, and this conference too, dedicated to the opening of our center.
Созданием этого центра. Если бы не было этого центра, я думаю, нам бы не удалось организовать этот симпозиум, и, конечно, нам бы не приехали ведущие специалисты.
very important that we communicate with each other, and I think this symposium was very helpful. I was particularly glad to see so many young Russian scientists present their research in English and be able to communicate about it. I think that is a first step and very essential for long-term collaboration.
One of the things that we want to do is talk to people we couldn't talk to before the Iron Curtain fell, and we are curious to see what's happening in this country, and science, how is science faring, and we'd like to simply learn about what's going on in this country. You have, for example, had this nuclear accident in Chernobyl, which, if evaluated properly, can teach us a lot about the consequences of nuclear accidents, and we'd like to learn about this. And this is what makes actually an exchange for me particularly interesting.
There are various levels. You find at some institutions and some clinics outstanding people who sometimes work under poor conditions but still produce good results, and you find other areas too which are not on the same level. There's a tremendous variation, and I think it would be nice, particularly for the clinical situation, with a good standard could be applied to all hospitals for all patients.
This has tremendous potential. Russia is a big country, has a lot of resources, has well-educated people, and has, technologically a very high standard. I think once you learn, say, some of the Western organization and apply it, I think you have tremendous potential to become, a member of world society, which has its own standing.
Science and medicine are international. The rules are the same for all countries, so it's very exciting now that we can work together on them.
I would fully agree with that. And I would make a comment fully off the record that you should ask a female scientist not only what she thinks about male scientists.
How would you estimate the scientific level, the level of Russian science to the moment?
Well, I think Russians are great mathematicians, and therefore in the computer science it's excellent. But for experimental science you need more money. So that's the only problem I see.
Я думаю, что клиническая работа на уровне, а для экспериментальной требуется просто больше источники финансирования. В этом, с моей точки зрения, заключается проблема.
То есть можно сказать так, что Россия находится головой в цивилизации, а ногами в каменном веке?
I would say that in some way Russia is with its head in civilized world and with its feet in some way in antique times.
Oh, but in few years I'm sure everything will be.
What's your opinion on how this symposium is represented? I mean, for scientists and many countries participating, whether it is representative or it's not enough people who came.
Oh, no, I think it's a good symposium because the size is small, it's not too many people, and it's a good mix of people from the West and people from Russia and other Eastern countries. So I think it's these small meetings are usually much better than the big meetings because they give a chance to exchange ideas person to person. Okay, so I like these small meetings much better.
What about the perspective of the cooperation between Western physicians and Russian ones, and for instance between St. Petersburg and United States of America?
There's a big gap and we have to work on closing that gap. Medicine in America is very expensive, very technical, and also very experimental. I think the problems here are different. One first has to cover the basic treatment for patients. On the other hand, that gives a very good chance to focus on some really important issues. In America, medicine is very much influenced by legal issues. So a lot of energy and money is wasted in medical decision making, which is not always based only on medical knowledge, but also on legal considerations. You don't have that here, so that is good. Also because you start almost from the beginning with your own history in hematology, it gives a good possibility to focus now on some top priority issues, and then in a few years, not a very long time, become very good in some selected fields. Not everything can be done, but clinical investigations, I think, can be excellent here, because what I hear is that your clinicians are very well informed about what should be done and about the literature in general. So I think clinical studies would be very, very good.
So actually, why you decided to cooperate with Russia?
Oh, it's a simple question. I think Russia and Europe is very, very connected, and you have a lot of culture in Russia we like very much, and you got a lot of culture from our country, and I think therefore it's a lot of feeling together. And we tried this 20 years ago, 10 years ago, and now it's opened the door, and I think now we should do all things to come together. We have to forget a lot of stupid things, and we have to remember the things who brings us together. And I think science is one of the things who brings people together from the whole world. And I think Russia and the whole world is now connected. And the most important step is then to take really person to person together. And therefore we planned a meeting, a small meeting like this meeting, where can come young people from Russia and young people from Europe. And these people can talk together, can have experience. And if you talk to Russian people about science, and especially in hematology, you will find there's a lot of knowledge, especially in morphology. And as you heard this morning, the experimental hematology was established in St. Petersburg at the American Academy, you see. And this is one point we should know. And now we came again together in this field, and there's a lot of wonderful posters here. This is a very good, nice poster session, and this is, I think, the first poster session I have seen who is so good and has really truth results and is a little bit international. We have to learn more and more, but this is a wonderful step from one meeting to another meeting.
Would you access just shortly results of this symposium and also emphasize what's new? For instance, Western hematology could find here?
Well, I think the important thing in this meeting, as in many meetings, is that you are exposed to other people's experience. Sometimes it's a good deal better than your own, sometimes it's worse, but at least we know the importance of paying attention to other people's work. That will improve our own patients' care. But there's also the approach that's becoming extremely important, that is of studying patients in the context of a clinical trial. And we need major recruitment, major numbers to be involved in these studies to make sure that any advantages or new treatments are properly assessed. And I think that's what listening this morning came through to me, that we really need international collaboration in looking at these different approaches. There's no doubt, though, that patients who are treated in clinical trials tend to have a better outcome than those who are just treated in any random fashion.
I am very optimistic regarding to the future. A lot of things have happened in the last year and in the last 1.5 years, and we see that there is a very positive development underway that we will all benefit from. And I see that the exchange between Russia and other countries will increase very much even in the future, and I'm very optimistic in this respect.
I agree, particularly from the intellectual point of view of our professions and the science that goes with it. It is a very exciting time because there is so much thought and knowledge here in Russia which we have not always been able to interact with. And I think it's going to be a very exciting few years, and I hope forever, but certainly for me a few years to collaborate with colleagues here.
И я бы отметил две трудности. С нашей стороны это прежде всего
I think two main problems in our work and cooperation are shortage of modern equipment and insufficient knowledge of foreign languages by our doctors and nurses.
нашими докторами и особенно нашими медсестрами. Но за последние годы этот уровень значительно
I hope,
повысился.
nevertheless, that will solve those problems. We try now.
В ближайшее время эта проблема будет преодолена. Остальных,
Other problems are of no special matter,
хотя наш
except Russian airlines, of course,
цена на
and very high ticket prices.
Валерий Борисович, скажите, пожалуйста, как вы оцениваете перспективы развития отечественной гематологии и, в частности, в связи с тем, что мы, наконец, вышли на мировую арену?
Ну, чтобы нам окончательно интегрироваться в мировое научное сообщество, я имею в виду именно эту отрасль.
In order to cooperate more successfully, we will have to join the data banks for exchanging of donor cells.
Сегодня в одном из докладов
In one of today's reports, I've heard the figures of how many people need those cells.
мозга профессора Сторба прозвучали цифры, какая часть населения, больных, нуждающихся в пересадке костного мозга, в принципе может быть обеспечена совместимым донорским костным мозгом. И эти цифры еще раз убеждают в том, что необходима наша интеграция
I
в
think that
банки
if our
костного
country
мозга, чтобы
take
наши
part
доноры
in a cells exchange, it will be of great help to people from abroad, and vice versa.
И наоборот, это значительно расширит наши возможности.
How do you evaluate the way the symposium is represented? I mean, by countries and or scientists or, well, realities?
I think one has to take into account both aspects. First of all, a symposium, particularly one like this, which is quite small and of people with close interests, you ask the folk most involved in the field and their young doctors and scientists to come with them. But it is also necessary to have some national net so that you bring people together from many different countries who perhaps would not normally have the opportunity to exchange information. So I think you need both scientific excellence and some sort of national collection of experts.
As far as we are informed, your name is somewhat connected with the name of Maximov, and so how you value his heritage in your institution and for the hematology as a whole?
Well, he was the first one to draw attention to the possibility that there are pluripotent stem cells in the bone marrow. And that's, of course, the underlying idea for transplantation. That is, if you have a stem cell which is capable of differentiating in all the cell lineages and renewing itself at the same time, then you can transplant such a cell. And this is, I think, the major contribution of his work.
Беверли, как вы находите русских ученых-мужчин?
How do you find Russian men scientists?
I think they're very friendly. And I've had some very pleasant contacts with them. Yeah.
So, Dr. Buchner, what do you think of the level of Russian medicine as a whole and of the possibilities of its integration to the world science and medicine?
I have formed my opinion about the level of Russian medicine now during 5 visits at this beautiful country. 5 visits since 2 years and a half, where I especially met my colleagues working on the field of hematology and especially in the treatment of leukemias. And during those visits, I met many Russian hematologists and oncologists, mainly young people, and I found that those young people were very well educated, and some of them seemed to be talented. I think the level must be good in this country. But if you ask me if something can be improved, then I should say that the cooperation should be improved. We have now the chance to cooperate with Russia and with my colleagues here. And this cooperation already has started and already shows good results, good initial results by using similar strategies for the treatment of acute leukemias, for instance, as they are used in West European countries and the United States. So I would say cooperation is the way to go, and by cooperation, the know-how how to use this kind of treatment will improve shortly. I already said that the preconditions for such a cooperation are very good, because we have capable specialists in this country, especially young specialists. And I also can be optimistic because the cooperation already shows progress and improvement and should have a good future.
Ситуация была очень сложная, она как-то то ли активно скрывалась, то ли...
Either it was actively concealed or very rarely spoken about in special literature. We thought we were holding strong and advanced positions, but it was far from being true. The results were just disgusting. 10–15% of leukosis and sarcoma cases survived for only 5 years, while in the West, since the 70s, over 50, 60, 70% of patients survived. 2 years ago, we had an opportunity to set up a bone marrow transplantation center. Bone transplantation, it's not transplantation alone. It brings about a possibility to develop chemical therapies. And we deal with implementation of new Western schemes of treatment. I know about the situation in Kiev, Moscow, in Minsk, and as far as I know, we are on the right track, and we are trying to adjust these Western techniques to our conditions, and I hope without losing their effectiveness. Pre-revolutionary Russia had well-established and wide contacts with all European countries. Then these contacts were lost, and only lately everything is coming back. History of Russia is coming back. The contacts are being restored. And I believe it's wonderful, it's good, and useful for all of us.
I think it was profound. Maximov was the first person to describe the formation of the blood in such a way that it is relevant at the end of the century as it was when he began to describe it at the beginning. He was not always believed, or he has been through times when it was not so important, but now it is clear that his ideas were correct, quite often in detail as well as in general concept. Amazing.